Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about the 2010 rom-com Easy A. Before we get started, I want to say I'm sorry for the delay in posting for a few weeks. I just recently moved back to college and I'm starting the semester, but hopefully I'll get back to posting regularly. If you've never heard of Easy A before, it's a really good, really funny rom-com that was released in 2010 that stars Emma Stone, Penn Badgley, and Amanda Bynes, along with others. I would highly suggest everyone watch this movie, but if you have not watched it, I will provide a brief recap for you. High schooler Olive Pendergast falsely claims to her best friend Rhiannon that she had lost her virginity to a college guy. The school's stuck-up Christian, Maryanne, overhears this conversation and spreads the rumor to the whole school. Having overheard the rumor, Olive's old friend Brandon approaches her and asks her to pretend to have sex with him in order to convince the rest of the student population that he is straight. Olive agrees, so Olive and Brandon pretend to have sex at a party, and Olive's reputation is more set in stone. At the same time, Olive's English teacher, Mr. Griffith, is teaching the class The Scarlet Letter. The Scarlet Letter is a book by Nathaniel Hawthorne that details the story of a woman who has a child outside of marriage and is made to wear a red A for adulterer in order to punish her and shame her. Inspired by this book in English class, Olive decides to embrace her skank reputation and change the way she dresses and acts, as well as adding a red A to all of her outfits. Word about what she did for Brandon gets out, which leads to other boys approaching her and asking to tell people that they had sex with her in exchange for paying her or giving her gifts. To be clear, Olive is not actually providing sexual favors for payment. All she is doing is allowing these boys to claim that they had sexual experiences with her. The school Christian, Maryanne, does not like this very much, and she goes on an anti-Olive crusade. Olive then learns that Maryanne's 22-year-old but still in high school boyfriend is actually sleeping with the guidance counselor, who just happens to be Mr. Griffith, the English teacher's wife. We learn this because Maryanne's boyfriend has contracted chlamydia from the guidance counselor, and Olive offers to take the blame for giving him chlamydia in order to not break up the marriage between her English teacher and the guidance counselor. After all of this, Olive is finally genuinely approached by a guy to go on a date, and she says yes. They go to the Lobster Shack and they have a little date before it's cut short, and they leave, and the guy attempts to give her a gift card in exchange for sexual favors. Olive says no to this, but he persists and attempts to sexually assault her. Eventually he drives off, and Olive's childhood crush, Todd, comes and drives her home. Because of all of this, Olive decides finally to come clean, so she tells her English teacher about his wife's affair, and she announces to the school that she was going to be doing a live stream that night. In this live stream, she details the entire situation and tells her truth. At the very end of the movie, we see Todd pull up outside of her window and they ride off together, newly in love. So that's the main plot of the story. Obviously, there's other things that happen, and as I said, I would highly suggest watching the movie. One interesting thing that I wanted to bring up now is that the entire movie basically is told through the broadcast at the end. So throughout the movie, we hear voiceovers from Olive that come from this broadcast at the end, where she's explaining her truth and the real story of what happened. This is an interesting narrative approach, as it allows for the added detail and description of having a narrator without introducing some omnipresent other narrator that's talking about what's going on. It's all coming from Olive just after the entire plot has taken place. One thing that I noticed and really like about this film is its use of and also slight mocking of rom-com tropes. So one example of this is the opening scene. It is a scene just kind of going through the school, and it has an opening monologue from Olive that seems very cliche and stereotypical for a high school movie.
The rumors of my promiscuity have been greatly exaggerated. I used to be anonymous, invisible to the opposite sex.
Another trope from high school movies that they latch onto is the idea of whatever they're reading in English class being somehow directly tied to the main character's personal struggles. Obviously here with the Scarlet Letter, it's a very clear connection, and Olive makes a comment at one point kind of poking fun at this and mocking it.
The books you read in class always seem to have some strong connection with whatever angsty adolescent drama is going on.
Another example of a trope that's used in teen high school movies is the speed rumor spreading montage. This happens twice in the film. So whenever a rumor is being spread about Olive, they kind of follow this camera going like first person through the high school at a speed, showing each character telling someone else about this rumor and how it spreads throughout the whole school in like 5 seconds. Somewhat connected to this is how the film implements, recreates, and references other classic high school films and other films. So I wanted to do a quick run through of all of the films that are referenced within Easy A, starting with obviously The Scarlet Letter. So obviously Olive is reading The Scarlet Letter in English class, but through the broadcast format, Olive also is explaining to the audience what The Scarlet Letter is, and in doing that they use clips from the original Scarlet Letter movie.
This girl named Hester Prynne has an affair with the minister, is besmirched and made to wear a red A for adulterer. But then the town realizes she was too harshly judged, and she's really a good person, and she dies a saint. A whole bunch of other stuff happens too. If you have a test on it, rent the movie, but make sure it's the original. Not the Demi Moore version where she talks in a fake British accent and takes a lot of baths.
This is useful as it establishes background of the film and its themes for the viewer who might not be familiar with it. Another more classic film that they reference is Huckleberry Finn, and they show clips of this to establish kind of the opposite of the reading a book in English class and it directly affects to your everyday life trope. She says that she's never known anyone who relates to Huckleberry Finn, and it's used as an example of an unrelatable classic story. During one part of the film, she also references 4 different classic teen rom-com high school movies, and says how she wants a romance like in those. So she says in Say Anything, the movie, she references John Cusack holding the boombox above his head, that classic imagery. From Can't Buy Me Love, she references Patrick Dempsey riding on the lawnmower with his love interest. In 16 Candles, she references Jake standing outside of the church. And from Breakfast Club, she references the famous ending scene of Judd Nelson thrusting his fist into the air.
Whatever happened to chivalry? Does it only exist in 80's movies? I want John Cusack holding a boombox outside my window. I want to ride off on a lawnmower with Patrick Dempsey. I want Jake from 16 Candles waiting outside the church for me. I want Judd Nelson thrusting his fist into the air because he knows he got me just once.
Additionally, most, if not all, of these rom-com teen movie references are recreated in the ending scene when Todd shows up to Olive's house. He shows up on a lawnmower with not a boombox but speakers and holds them up to her. And then they drive off together on the lawnmower, and it ends with a freeze frame shot of them thrusting their fists in the air. I really enjoyed how they incorporated clips from these films specifically. I think that it really helped establish the vibe and what message she was trying to get across of what she wanted from a romance. She wanted the teen high school movie, the guy showing up with some big grand gesture and fixing everything. And while I think the references verbally to this would have still been great, I think it's an excellent choice on the filmmaker's part to include these clips. It provides a sense of nostalgia and just kind of establishes the feeling that those 80s movies have. So next I want to talk about the fashion in this movie, and the fashion in this movie is not good, to say the least. I want to start with Olive and Rhiannon's opening outfits. Olive is wearing a blue tank top with a black short sleeve shirt, like open shirt over it, and blue jeans. And Rhiannon is wearing like a jeans skirt and this god-awful tight-fitting, short-sleeve plaid button-up. Olive is a big fan of a tank top and also like a vest in this movie. We also see her later wearing just like a white tank top and a black vest, or a black tank top, and she loves wearing a very long tank top that goes down a little too far past her jeans and looks a little awkward. Even after her makeover sequence, some of the outfits still aren't great. Her first outfit post-makeover is this like black sleeveless corset with black jeans, and it doesn't like flatter her well. I don't know, the cut of it doesn't really look good to me, and also it's just all black with no contrast except for the A, and the A is a sleigh. But other than that, I'm just really not into most of Olive's fashion choices in the film. One other Olive outfit that I want to address is kind of the classic black corset that she wears with this like pink ribboning and bows on it. Now, I can't decide if I like this outfit or not, but it is a standout, I would say, and it's very like iconic, and that's what I think of when I think of her costuming for Easy A. I want to say I like it. I think the pink bows down near the bottom near her hips are throwing me off a little bit, but I don't think it's a deal breaker, and I think I like the outfit overall. Now, a costume that I do love from this film is Penn Badgley's Blue Devil costume when he's the mascot of the school, and their mascot used to be the Blue Devils, so he's in like blue body paint, these blue shorts, a blue cape, and sometimes this like blue hat with horns in it. And it goes crazy, and maybe that's just because Penn Badgley is hot. That's up for you to decide. Now, I know I've been bashing on the fashion in this movie, but Rhiannon occasionally has a good fit. And by occasionally, I mean there is one I can think of, and it's this cute, like, white floral corset top that she's wearing. It has a really nice neckline. It's very flattering to her body type, and I really liked this outfit. Now we're going to get into some of the characters, character relationships, and dynamics of the film. We're going to start with Rhiannon, who I mentioned was Olive's friend at the beginning of the film. And Rhiannon is a bad friend. Even before her and Olive have like a falling out, she's constantly calling Olive names and interrupting her. She doesn't listen to Olive. And the entire reason the whole plot of the movie gets set up is because she doesn't believe Olive when Olive says she didn't have sex with some college guy. So Olive eventually just gives in and tells Rhiannon what she wants to hear, and that's what sets the entire plot into motion. So even when they were friends, she wasn't great towards Olive, and then as soon as the rumor spreads about Olive and Brandon having sex, Rhiannon calls Olive up and immediately starts slut-shaming her. Rhiannon ends up kind of disowning Olive. They have a friend breakup. Rhiannon even joins the like Christian group at school crusading against Olive, all because Olive's gaining a reputation for being slutty. And Rhiannon never really redeems herself by the end of the film. She's still not on great terms with Olive, and honestly, I think that's for the best, and I think Olive should move on and find better friends. Next, I want to talk about the dynamic with the parents, and the parents in this film are a hit every time. The dad is played by Stanley Tucci, and Stanley Tucci kills it in every single role he plays. There's a really funny scene when they were talking about Olive's adopted brother, who is African American.
I'm adopted.
What? Oh my God! Who told you? Guys, we were gonna do this at the right time.
There's also a really funny scene where Olive got in trouble in school for calling a classmate a twat, and she comes home and tells her parents this, and they ask what word she called the person to get in trouble, and her brother's in the room, so she doesn't want to say because he's young, and the parents ask what letter it starts with, and she says T, and then they have this whole kind of comedic sketch where they're all like T, 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 and they can't like think of any curse words that start with T, and then she spells it out with her P's, and it's just really, it's a funny scene. It has really good comedic timing in it. Then there's a scene where Brandon comes to their house, knocks on the door, the mom answers, and he asks if there is an Olive here, if Olive lives here is what he means, and the mom responds with
Hi, is there an olive here?
There's a whole jar of them in the fridge.
And there's a really funny scene where Stanley Tucci, the dad, approaches Olive, and he's talking about how he thinks Brandon is gay, which Brandon is gay. And Stanley Tucci says,
"No judgment, all God's children, it's fine. I was gay once, for a while. No big deal. We all do it. It's okay."
And the parents are really funny. They have really nice one-liners. They have great comedic timing. They're great comic relief. But also they're genuinely good parents to Olive. They listen to her and they offer support to her and advice for her, but they don't push her to talk about anything that she doesn't want to talk about, and they trust her to deal with her own issues and come to them if it becomes something she cannot deal with. Another comedic relief character I want to talk about is Maryanne, who is the classic, like, pushy Christian caricature. Now, I just want to say, as a disclaimer, I am not Christian, I'm not religious, but I do have deep, deep respect for those who are religious and those who practice the Christian faith in a way that is loving and accepting. However, Maryanne very much is portraying the type of Christian who uses the faith as a way to judge others and be mean to others. But that being said, Maryanne, played by Amanda Bynes, really snaps off and has some really good quotes for example, when Olive and Rhiannon run into her in the bathroom near the beginning of the film, she says,
"What the hell are you looking at, Sister Christian? Just a couple of admitted whores."
And later in the film, they're having kind of a Christian study/singing circle, and she's crying and she says,
"Jesus tells us to love everyone. I mean, even the whores and the homosexuals, but it's just so hard."
Which is just the perfect encapsulation of, like, a backhanded, I still love you, love the sinner, hate the sin type of Christian. And then another really funny part, Olive approaches her about her 22-year-old boyfriend who still hasn't graduated high school, and Amanda Bynes' character says,
If God wanted him to graduate, God would have given him the right answers.
And Amanda Bynes really snapped off with this role to be so real. So next I want to talk about kind of the counselor / Maryanne's boyfriend / the English teacher dynamic. So Maryanne's boyfriend, I don't remember his name to be so real, so I will be referring to him as Maryanne's boyfriend, is either 20 or 22, but he's still in high school. He's a high school senior who's been held back. Olive's English teacher is Mr. Griffith, and he's a little weird and creepy. There are some things he does that seem a little odd to me. Nothing like outright bad, but he's a little too involved in these kids' personal lives. Mrs. Griffith, Mr. Griffith's wife, is the counselor, and she seems really nice and cool and offers good advice to Olive until we learn that she is sleeping with Maryanne's boyfriend, who is a student. And yes, he is above the age of 18, which she points out many times, so it is not illegal. However, there is definitely a big power imbalance there, and it is clear that she is taking advantage of that. When it comes out that they are sleeping together, Mrs. Griffith kind of guilts Olive into taking the blame for giving Maryanne's boyfriend chlamydia, and Olive agrees to do this, which I do not think she should be doing, because you should never be covering for someone who is abusing their power over another person. But I understand that Olive didn't want to cause a disruption in her favorite English teacher's marriage, but she does eventually tell Mr. Griffith. She says she regrets it and it wasn't her place, which I disagree with. I think it was absolutely her place. Mr. Griffith deserved to know, and Olive should also be telling the proper authorities at this school, and Mrs. Griffith should be getting fired. She is a groomer. Even if both parties involved are above the age of 18, it is not okay for a student or a subordinate to be pressured into a relationship by a superior or a counselor or a teacher or someone who has that amount of power over them. On a lighter note, to end this off, I want to talk about Emma Stone's musical number in this film. So near the end of the film, Olive does a musical number at a pep rally in order to announce the live stream she's going to do, and she sings and she dances along to the song Knock on Wood, and she slays so hard, and Todd, played by Penn Badgley, is also involved in this, and it's a great musical number. It's fun.
Is that bully?
And I remember, I forget what year, but one year in marching band, I was in marching band in high school. Sorry to admit that. We played this song as one of our like halftime show songs, and every single time we played it, I thought of this scene in Easy A, and me and my best friend actually talked about that a few times, that this song was in Easy A and we love Easy A. So I just think that's a fun little detail, and I think every teen rom-com deserves a musical number, and I'm glad that Easy A agrees and put one in here. So yeah, that's all I have to say about Easy A. We did a little plot overview, talked about some of the characters and relationship dynamics, some of the fashion, some of the film choices that they made, and references to other films, as well as the little musical number at the end. I hope you all enjoyed watching this video. It would mean a lot to me if you were to like the video, leave a comment down below, and subscribe to my channel. Once again, if you have any suggestions for movies for me to analyze or topics in pop culture or media for me to discuss, always free to suggestions in the comments. Alright guys, I'll see y'all in the next one. Bye!